What's up, everyone? Welcome back to All About Your Mindset podcast, episode number 21. Let's do this. Welcome to All About Your Mindset podcast, where it's all about discovering your greater potential and creating the life you want through the way you think. And now, your guide, Giovanni Casals. Welcome back, my friends, family, podcastians. We have another great episode for you today, and today it's all about relationships. This is a big topic for a lot of people, and it's not just relationships with a loved one or partner, but relationships with coworkers, bosses, vendors, whatever it may be, all types of relationships. Today we have Dr. Mark Howard on the show. And the conversation takes an interesting turn, not the direction I thought I was going to go, which is surprising in a good way. So I'm excited for you guys to hear about that. But before we get to that, if you have not already, please follow me on Instagram at _all about your mindset and on Facebook at / all about your mindset podcast. Share with those who you love and cherish in your life so that they can grow and progress with you and so that nobody's leaving behind, because this podcast is about relationships, not just with those around you, but yourself. So without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Dr. Mark Howard. I'm so happy to welcome Dr. Mark Howard here to All About Your Mindset podcast today. Dr. Mark, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for inviting me, Giovanni. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. And I'm happy too, because today we have a great topic for everybody, and we're talking about relationships. And we're not just talking about necessarily intimate relationships, but relationships with other people. So maybe coworkers, family relationships, any kind of relationship is what we're talking about. And as usual, I like to start with how do you normally start your morning to get you in the right mindset for the day?
Well, for me, it's about just finding a feeling of gratitude. Not really about anything, but just to try that feeling of being grateful. But I'm kind of known for, finding some peace of mind actually by getting a cup of coffee and read the paper. I love to do that. And it's not so much that I get into all the headlines or anything, but it's just a very relaxing thing for me. I've done that since my early undergraduate days. So I've had some fun with people that I mentor who know that I do that, and they're asking me if I had my cup of coffee and paper by the time I talk with them. But it's really about, just finding that feeling of being grateful or that feeling of gratitude that we carry with us, and but then going to the coffee and paper just gets me into a nice state of mind.
Nice. Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I like that. I don't drink coffee myself, but
I know a lot of people
get you going in the morning.
People are wondering, how does that get you peaceful?
Hey, some people, right? They just work a little bit different. But I know a lot of people that drink coffee just get the engine kind of going, oil up everything, and get going. But
well, as we'll talk about, I think it's really more that just doing that and looking forward to that, my mind relaxes.
Yeah.
And I know people might say, well, reading the paper nowadays or coffee wouldn't relax my mind, but it's just what I do that when I go into doing that, my mind gets relaxed. Yeah. And that's how I really would like to get started, is not having a lot of thinking on my mind,
Oh, that's great. I try not to think in general, so it's all good. Well, excellent. So, as I mentioned, Dr. Mark Howard. So can you tell us what kind of doctor you are and kind of how you came about in the field that you're in, if you would?
Well, I have a PhD in clinical psychology. So I'm licensed in California as a psychologist. And, I've been practicing for 37 years now, really. It's a long time. So my first interest was really, as an undergrad, I just picked a major as psychology at the university, mm-hmm. and I got interested in it. I really got curious about understanding people. And And then when I went for my PhD work, it was in clinical psychology. But by that time, I kind of woke up to a feeling of wanting to be of help to people. And actually, what's guided me all the way is somehow I've always known deep within that people are okay, that they can find within themselves the resources they need to live happy and well-being and figure things out that lead to a positive outcome. So that kind of guided me through. And so then I was traditionally a psychologist, trained in a lot of areas of psychology and a lot of approaches. And then trying to find a little more happiness for myself and to bring my clients deeper than I could at the time, I kind of looked around and found this person. I was just fortunate to find him who had like a spiritual epiphany, really saw the true meaning of life. I mean, really saw that. And when I went to hear him, I had my own little insight about feelings and about how we operate. And what I saw there was if I could understand this, I would be happier, and so would my clients. And so I've been following that since 1983.
Okay.
And I am known internationally for for bringing that to all peoples, starting out with my own mental health professionals, but now expanding to the public. So I've been invited to give presentations and do trainings in North America and Canada, in the UK, and I've had a very rich uh, time of meeting people and helping them find not only their own well-being and happiness, but how to share this with others so that in their work as life coaches or some other health profession or body workers or mental health professionals, they could find a way to share this understanding that I've come to that impacts their clients, transforms their clients.
Powerful. And can you give us a little more information on what that was? That kind of
Here's the essentially it's about really getting a knowing that we are all a part of an energy that's kind of, we call it formless energy or spiritual energy. It's this energy and intelligence that's part of this universe that's before any universe was formed. This intelligence and wisdom, we call it mind. Some people call it God, but I don't mean it in terms of the way we think about it, but just really that all of us are connected to this intelligence. Now, simply put, all living things have it. You can see that plants know what minerals to take from the soil. Our body has an intelligence that we count on to heal ourselves, right? If we have a cut or a wound, we know our body will take care of that. So we already have a sense of an intelligence being in life. We're also seeing that we have an intelligence that can guide us into finding our own well-being and happiness and living with others with an understanding for people. The second part of that is that this energy is always manifesting through us, and the way that we can use it is that through thought, we form an experience of our day-to-day life. Through thought, we have a reality of a moment. So we have this full range of how we use thought. We can be bothered, we can be annoyed, we could be loving, we can be joyful. All of that's coming from this, again, formless energy to create through our thinking a reality we live in. And finally, we have consciousness, which makes us aware. We're conscious of being alive. We're aware that we can be aware of how thought creates our moment-to-moment experience of life. And when we become aware of that, we kind of rise in our level of understanding to a new view of life that moves us more toward, love and understanding. Yeah. Wow. So generally, those are the three principles. And, very simply put, Um, but I've given 4-day courses on that. So there's a lot more to see about it. But that's simply put what the understanding is, that I'm being called on to share with other people internationally.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. I feel like I'm an expert already just with that few minute speech. No need for a 4-day course for me. I got it all. No,
Well,
that's
great. Well,
yeah,
great.
yeah. So I'm a prodigy
It's
that
not
way.
meant to be complex.
Yeah.
It can be very simple, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, we've had other guests on here, talking about the law of attraction and other things of that nature where it's, and it might be a little bit different than what you're describing, but it's really our thoughts create, our reality, if you will. Is that correct? Like,
Yeah,
or is,
well, it create. Yeah, here's the piece about it that may be a little different.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Two things here. We can grasp that idea pretty quickly intellectually, but really knowing it in our soul or in our heart takes a little longer to really live from that. Now, what I'm saying is that it doesn't create our reality outside of ourselves. It
Mhm.
creates our internal reality of
Mm.
our feelings and our emotions. And the minute we have a thought, everything within us follows that thought. So our brain chemistry, our physiology, feelings, and so forth follow from that. But I'm not using thought as we're creating the reality
Got you.
outside.
Okay.
We're creating this internal reality. And knowing that helps people know how to live with the outside.
Oh, okay. I got you. Excellent. So then that would be good to see how it interplays with this relationships, the topic of
Yes,
today.
yes,
So I'm
yes.
super excited about that. So just a kind of question I want to get started is there a common thread that you see when people come to you, whether it's intimate relationships, working relationships, or familial relationships? Is there like a common thread of why they're seeking you out in general?
Well, yeah, I think there's two things here. One is that usually they're seeing some difficulty with the other person in their relationship, whether it's a coworker, a staff member, a boss, a loved one, a child or parent. What they're looking at and presenting to me is how much this other person is causing them difficulty and whether or not they should stay around this person. I guess that's the first one. The other thing that I sit with is I know that they're feeling like they've lost the feeling or the hope that that relationship can be workable, that can really become a really resourceful relationship and a good relationship for them in their lives, regardless of what it is, work or home and family. And I know that it's still there. And but basically, that's how people show up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent.
does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And so you said that people come to you like they've lost hope, that that they can't kind of salvage the relationship. How would you start to guide them, right? Because it's kind of hard to pull somebody who doesn't have any hope anymore for a relationship or for anything else, to get them back to where they an even ground or even to where they were or beyond where they were as a in a positive sense. Like, so how do you start that process of bringing back hope into them? Because I know it's nobody outside of you can make you happy. It's all internal. So where do you start with people to kind of start bringing a little bit of hope back into them?
Well, again, I like to tell people, well, that's where I earn the money.
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
that's where the job is. But really, I actually am straightforward when I can. With people who come to me. I mean, first I've got to build a relationship where they have some trust in me, and will listen to me. But I really will be straightforward to help them see that they haven't really lost the possibility for their relationship or the love for their relationship if it's an intimate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't lost it. It hasn't gone anywhere. And then I begin to talk about how they're using their capacity for thought to create ill will towards their partner, so they might get into these habits that build up over time of fault finding, of being judgmental about the other person's way, about having opinions about the person, of thinking that they'll feel better if only that person will be this way. So all kinds of thinking that, we kind of we not grow up in, but we think about a lot when we get into relationships, and sometimes feel some disturbance about the other person. So I start to point people to how their own thinking forms dissatisfaction with the other person, or annoyance with the other person, or bother. It looks to them like it's the other person, right?
Yeah.
But I try to help them see, well, no, it's not really the other person. They've lost an understanding for the other person because of the quality of thinking they get engaged in, whether it's looking at their boss or looking at a coworker, a colleague, or a family member, or a lover,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really important. That's where I start. And it really, I really form a relationship with the people that come to see me, so I could start to say that, and they will be curious with me to learn how that's really the case and not how it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So, but those are the two ways I start to talk with people to see if they're interested in bringing back the hope, but not only the hope, but going to beyond that to where they really wanted this relationship to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And so do you work with so if it's an intimate couple, lover, do you work together, or is it individual? And even, or with coworkers, are you working together, or are you just working on the individual person?
Well, it varies,
Okay.
If it's a love relationship, family, or couples, I'll work with everybody. I'd like to work with everybody. So if it's a couple, a love couple, a couple that it's about their love relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll work with them together. Now, if it's something to do with a business relationship, I'll try to find a program where I can work with the whole group. But sometimes other people don't want to get involved, including a partner or spouse of someone in a love relationship. So I don't mind starting off with one person, because you see, if they start to catch on to this understanding, they're going to be different in the relationship. There's going to be a different feeling, because they're going to come to some understanding that's within themselves, some wisdom about how to look at their partner with more understanding, how to look at their partner and try to discover more about them than to sit with their own characterization of their partner. So when they go back to the relationship with having learned some things, they're different in the relationship, and the people around them take notice. And then they get curious too. Yeah. So that may bring in other people. Yeah. But when it's about a business relationship or an owner trying to deal with staff, I like to put together a program where everybody gets involved and they learn some of these principles in a neutral setting, where we're not looking at we're not looking at individual people or blaming anyone. We're just educating. It's an educational program, and give them the same points I would give to a couple that I'm seeing together in my office.
And is there like a number one killer in relationships? I know it all comes to us, but comes back to the individual, and if all individuals are, feeling better within themselves. But is there you always hear a killer of relationships is communication. I just read an article before we got on here, but one was expectations of the relationship. Mm-hmm. Things like that. Is there something that you see commonly that is a big cause of a deteriorating relationship?
So let me say a few things, and I'll talk about that. One is look at something like there's two things that I see, what I call separate realities and state of mind.
Okay.
Um, what I talk about with people around separate realities is to understand that people will always operate differently than you
Mm-hmm.
because they've grown up learning a different way of going about life, thinking about life in a different way. And so they're going, when things come up, they're going to go about it differently than you would.
Yeah.
In fact, compatibility has nothing to do with it because if you really looked at two people living together, just look at that, and they get up in the morning. One person wants a certain kind of breakfast and another person wants another kind of breakfast. Some people don't want breakfast at all.
Yeah.
Like, look at me. I come up, get up, and all I want is a coffee and read the paper. Well, my wife would like some oatmeal or something like that, you see? So differences are almost everywhere. And that's nothing because we grow up learning our own ways to go about dealing with life issues.
Yeah.
Now, when there is a significant issue that impinges on the relationship, like finances or unemployment or children, so forth, people have different ways, again, of responding to that.
Yeah.
Now, what happens in a relationship that leads to difficulty is people judge that. See, people judge the differences. Well, that's wrong. What's wrong? You should have more than just a cup of coffee and read the paper.
Yeah.
You should do it my way,
Mm.
and that becomes habitual. I think it's in our culture, it's kind of second nature to think that way.
You're doing it wrong. Do it my way
Yeah,
instead.
but
Yeah.
that's where people get into trouble because look at this, Giovanni. If I told you your way is wrong, what happens to you immediately?
No, I'm right.
That's right. You get defensive, don't
Yeah.
you? So what I talk to couples about is finding an understanding for these differences, to see that they aren't personal. They're just the way that person has learned to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can take it more on an understanding impersonal level, it's easy for two people to talk about the differences where people are more generous. They'll say, oh, okay, well, if that bothers you, I'll try to get better at it. You see?
Mm-hmm.
But if people are defensive with one another and they don't have an understanding for these differences, it leads to arguments and ill will, and then it just snowballs. So that's the first piece, separate reality. The next piece is state of mind. So here's the piece about the state of mind. All of us through a day are not at the same state of mind throughout the day.
Yeah.
We could be happy and just kind of feel good when we leave our house to go work, and we're driving along and our mood drops and we're troubled or we're getting worried or we're fearful about something or whatever. So there's a whole range of that. There's a whole range, and we're going through that all day long. So I like to help people see, if we look at just the ends of that continuum, when people are in troubled states of mind, meaning that they're worried, they're depressed, they're fearful about something, they don't think too well of themselves at that moment, they're not at their best with you. Mm-hmm. They're not going to listen well. They're not going to consider you. They'll be short-tempered. And the worse they feel, the worse they are with you. And when people are in really, positive states of mind, they're feeling peaceful, they're calm, they're happy, they're hopeful. Then they are generous, they're considerate, they understand, they have a lot of wisdom. So understanding states of mind helps us deal with people, particularly when they're at their most troubled states of mind. Yeah. You go into that store and, you bring your stuff up to the clerk and they're rude or, they're taking their time with you or whatever. That's only coming out because they're troubled. They may be stressed out. Maybe they had a tough customer before you. Maybe they're working overtime. Who knows? But all you need to know is that if that's coming your way, that person is in a troubled state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps again when you're in your relationship with your boss or your colleagues or your love person. When they're not treating you well, they're probably troubled.
Yeah.
And they're not probably troubled, they are.
Yeah.
They are. Because if you look at it when they're in better states of mind, they're different toward you.
Yeah.
That's really important to see. The other piece of it is people don't have control over that. And so a lot of times people say, well, I get that about my partner, but they shouldn't do that to me. They should know better even when they're troubled,
Yeah. Yep.
So that's why it takes some time for people to really see the deeper truth of this and bring the understanding to bear.
Yeah.
You see? So those 2 points for me are the important ones for people to grasp and really get an understanding for that really helps the relationship.
Yeah. And so how do you combine the two for people? Because I mean, understanding, like me consciously understanding what you just said about the state of mind, like, yeah, I can see somebody's upset. How do you integrate that so that it doesn't affect you? Because you could be, in a total like happy spot, and then your spouse or your boss or coworker comes in and is like furious at whatever happens, and then it kind of gets directed towards you, and then all of a sudden you're like the defensive once again. You're like, well, I didn't do anything. What the heck? So how can we, I guess kind of 2 parts is how can we get out of that moment? So we be like, okay, they're going through something and they're in a state of mind, in a certain state of mind, a troubled state of mind, as you put it. How do I not let that affect me? And then how do we go forward after that?
Well, the work I do is really for people to get an understanding, because the understanding you have for it will take care of you. It doesn't guarantee that you won't get reactive to someone. It doesn't guarantee that. But if you understand that people act more negatively from a troubled state of mind, if you really understand that, that'll come back to you. It'll come back to you. And so rather than holding grudges for years, or seeing this is somebody I can't work with again, or, I can't really talk to this person about the way they are. Yeah. Although once you realize that's just a troubled state of mind, you recuperate, you recover. And so you're not holding on to something for years, or you don't write somebody off, or, maybe 15 seconds after you've reacted, you remember, oh yeah, wait a minute here. That's that state of mind thing. Now that takes care of you first because it calms your mind down, but then it gives you a broader perspective. If you're living in that understanding, you get a broader perspective about, well, how can I go to this person? When can I talk to this person? How can I be with this person? You see things that if you would just hold a grudge against them, you never get a chance to see.
Yeah.
You see? Yep. So it isn't like you can get a strategy. You can't really, because of the way we work psychologically. Even if you've got this understanding very, very deep, you can get reactive to somebody, and all of us do. It's that you can recover is the hope of this. Because at some point, the depth of your understanding will come up to you again. It will just come to you. You'll remember, oh my God, yeah, I kind of got upset there, but that person was really stressed out.
Yeah.
I saw that with a boss I had when I was working for a medical center. I was always kind of fearful about the person. And I was running a program and had to report to her. And I really got this understanding that when she's that way, she's really insecure about her role. She doesn't really feel like she can do well. I really got that. And it helped me because what helped me was as I saw that, I thought, well, what started to occur to me is I could kind of go beforehand and help her not get to an insecure state of mind. I could maybe go in and talk in a way that I don't contribute to her getting more insecure. Because, see, I used to go in demanding a lot and not thinking much of her. But once I had this understanding, I realized, oh my God, I'm just reacting to her troubled state of mind. Then it occurred to me, well, maybe you could go in and help her out with it a bit by talking a little differently. Mm-hmm. See, so we've got this wellspring of wisdom that once we touch that wisdom with understanding for the truth of the way we work and other people, that wisdom starts to give us more that we can use, that fosters the relationship and brings it further. When we're holding on to being resentful about the way a person talked to us, we don't touch that wisdom. Yeah. We don't get to hear, to see more. So that's why I like to talk to people about understanding, because if they live with the understanding for this, it allows that wisdom a pathway. Yeah. So you just don't sit there thinking, okay, state of mind. Okay, I'll state of mind. But not only that, when you live with understanding the state of mind, it gives you more. It gives you more about how you can be with that person, what you can say to that person, how to help that person, things you wouldn't have seen if you just continued to see that person from a resentful point of view or a judgmental point of view. Yeah. Do you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That is really the power of us. That's really the power.
Yeah. And so, because you said the state of minds, and are separate realities. I know it as our maps, right? From what I've been taught. How do we start to, or how can we start to have a better state of mind in those moments? Because the way you are is from your childhood or past experiences, correct? Right. So how do we kind of break those? Because if it's a negative habit, or you have negative triggers that put you in a negative state of mind when something happens, or when somebody else is in a negative state of mind, what are some ways we can start being more aware of, like, having more of that understanding and getting it going, so we can be like, oh, okay, I can understand, or I see at least right now that they're in a certain state of mind. How do we start initiating that understanding within ourselves? If that makes sense.
Well, so first of all, we do learn our ways to be and our ways to think about life or ourselves. We do learn that. It's an innocent process, development. However, we really, going back to the first principle, we never lose connection to the intelligence of mind. Okay. So that is always available to us to assist us in our way. That's why I speak more about understanding than strategies, because the minute this makes sense to you, it will percolate. And honestly, this intelligence will give you more about your own way of what to do, So there's always this hope that you're more than a personality. You see, there's always that hope that you're more than your conditioned learning, because you are already. Now, once you start to understand what's up, that you're only getting annoyed with someone because of the way you're thinking, your habits of thought have come in and you've gotten judgmental, or you started to think, wait a minute here, my way's the right way. You got annoyed. You started to think in some way that's got you feeling reactive to this person in some way. Once you see that, then you want to go to your own thinking and quiet it down. Mm-hmm. You want to move away from the way you are habitually looking at it. So you give yourself a little time to calm that down so you can hear from this intelligence you're a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't give people strategies about
Okay.
that. I just keep talking to people about this in terms of, what aren't you understanding about it? What would help you see more about your own way to figure it out? And people, it starts to dawn on people what they can do.
Okay.
Because people can take what I say and try it for a while. But what I've seen in the past when I've done that, it doesn't sustain itself
Yeah.
because it hasn't come from the person. So I try to just talk more and more how we can get that person to see it better so they can come up with their own way. And when people meet with me and we work that way, they do. They come up with their own way. Oh, I see. I see how I can look at my partner. I see what I've been doing that's gotten in my way. I see what I need is just a timeout from my somebody said, I just need a timeout from my gremlins.
Gremlins.
So,
Don't get them wet. Don't.
yeah, exactly. So we have a little laugh about that,
Yeah.
and they've got it. See, it's solid,
Mm.
for them.
Nice, excellent. And would you be willing to give us a little bit of a taste of what you go through your 4-day workshops? I know you had mentioned the principles beforehand, but would we be able to dive a little bit deeper on some of the subject? Or can you let us know what kind of subjects you talk about? I know it's about understanding, but how do you? What are you teaching during that kind of program? If you're willing to.
Yeah, well, we'll take the time together to go through the principles with a little more depth.
Yeah.
These three principles I shared at the beginning, and then I'll talk about how they play out. So I'll talk about how feelings are just a reaction to the way we're using thought, and I'll talk about how I grew up really thinking that feelings had a life of their own and that they really were important to me, and I should embrace every feeling and kind of get the information it's giving me. But really, feelings are just telling us where our thinking's going, and they're useful, but they're useful like a compass to just let us know, hey, our thinking's heading toward anger or worry or fear or anxiety or joy. You see, so we'll look there, and that's like a 90-minute session, and then we do a little exercise on that. So I'm giving you a little bit of the highlights of it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no, absolutely.
And we definitely will cover relationships, and we will work out the separate realities and states of mind, and really have people kind of talk together about recognizing state of mind, so they kind of get a little more depth of understanding for that. And we'll talk about the levels of understanding that people can find, that they're learning about the way their psychology plays out is like infinite. They could always see more. And as they concentrate more within, to keep an eye on how they're using thought and consciousness, and also that they are part of mind, that they can start to see more. Now, for me, the guide would be living toward more love and understanding.
It's a good guide.
It is. It's a wonderful guide, because if you have the feeling of love, it's your feeling.
Yeah.
So, you drop into that feeling again, and it might manifest as being grateful or being generous or being at peace. It manifests in different ways. And if you live with understanding, you're kind of living with the understanding we touched on, right? Mm-hmm. The understanding of separate realities, the understanding of states of mind, you see?
Yeah.
And if you live with that understanding, and all of us being the same, all of us are living in life, doing the same, trying to find that same feeling of well-being and happy. All of us are, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you live there, if you try to keep an eye there, there I go again, with my own habitual thinking. But once you wake up to, oh man, I got caught up in my habits again, you try to go back within, into that space within, rather than go fix something outside of you. That's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key is people, when they're feeling a little off, try to go fix something with the outside, getting something from the outside, but you have it all within already.
Yeah.
I kind of call it when I work. I've also worked in the field of addictions and compulsions and things like that. And what I've talked to people there, it's the same thing as love and understanding, but I'm talking to people about finding contentment.
Mm.
And that contentment is within. And contentment is really the feeling of just beautiful peace of mind and well-being. And when you have had a moment of that, if you looked at that, nobody in that feeling, you don't want anything more.
Yeah.
You see, you're not looking for anything more because you found it once again, right? There's just this feeling of, this beautiful feeling. And you don't feel you're lacking anything. There's no thinking about yourself in that feeling.
Yeah.
So that's why I talk about going within with people rather than go outside, because going outside fools us because we think we don't have what we're looking for already.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see. So we'll talk about that in the 4 days. Probably the last day and a half we spend on that, because that's really what cures people, or that's really what brings people to their wisdom and helps them know that they're okay, and gives them their own creative energies to know how to handle the issues in life that they're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful stuff. And I mean, I know a lot of people these days look for the outward thing to help them rather than looking inward and knowing that they have all the answers, right? They might not have, I don't know, they might not have access to those answers right away, but through
Yeah.
someone's guidance, they can gain that access and so much more. Like you said, it's almost infinite, right? I mean, there's no stopping, and there's no ceiling or anything like that. You mentioned the levels of understanding. Is there like specific levels, or just like each time you understand something, like your bar is kind of raised a little bit more to understand a little bit more deeper, or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's more that
Okay.
than there are actual signposts,
Okay. Yeah.
I would say that in general, we really can evolve spiritually and psychologically, right? We can. And many approaches that I was trained in uh, didn't see that. They saw people as a personality, and they can only get so far.
Mm-hmm.
And what really brought me to really to really want to learn more with this understanding was that first evening I heard this person. It was about how we are a personality, that we can continually find more understanding for not our own true nature, but also the nature of life. And each time we find a little more understanding, we're moving more toward happiness and well-being and peacefulness and living in harmony, and giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
All of that stuff human beings look for, that bring again, this feeling of well-being or contentment, or now that doesn't mean they're passive.
Yeah.
Because the other part to this is people become more productive. They create more. So it isn't like you become like you're not living in nirvana, where it's
On
like,
top of the mountain, just just floating there.
Yeah. So that's the other piece to get about this, is that each time you're evolving, you find you get more creative energy. You see more of how you can be helpful to the world. You see how you, in your particular way, what you're attracted to, how you can bring that about more efficiently and more effectively, and how you can add more to whatever it is that you've created, that you have felt you've wanted to help the world with, or humanity. So you don't become a passive being. You actually become more involved in life.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's important to see too. We've talked a lot about understanding. People could take it as passive, but it isn't. The minute you get free of some of your insecure thinking or some of your conditioned habits that have kept you critical of yourself or limited, you become more creative.
Mm.
You just see more opportunity. You see, and you go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it called? I always forget the name of it. Where you only see what you focus on, right? I know there's a term for it, but I can't remember at the time. So, but if you're in that negative mindset or just not in tune with yourself, I'll say, you only see the bad or whatever it is. But if you're more have more understanding within yourself and who you are, you start to see more of the positive, and then more of the positive, or the more of the what you wanting type stuff coming through in your life. Right?
That's really true. That's really true. And I'll give you a story about that.
Please.
So I was known around North America, and so this wonderful coach in the UK, Jamie Smart, heard of me, and he had been starting a year-long program for people. He had just moved from NLP to these principles, and he heard of me and he asked me if I would come over and do a year-long training program for him. That meant about 5 trips over to the UK. Now, I've always wanted to do that. It was my dream, but my habit is always to get insecure with opportunity. That's my habit. So I started to get insecure and said, well, maybe, I don't know, what do you think it'll look like, and I'm manifesting all this idea about, I gotta fly, how am I gonna, all this stuff. And so I turned to my wife and I said, what do you think? And she says, well, it's been your dream, hasn't it? And that all of a sudden freed me from all that insecure thinking. And the minute I got free of that insecure thinking, I saw the opportunity. So my insecure thinking was limiting me.
Yeah.
You see, I almost said no. But once whatever she said hit my core. Yeah. And when that, how that happens, it hits you and it just frees you from your limiting thoughts. Yeah. And I said, oh yeah, I'll do it. So that's what you're saying. If you take a little notch off of your limiting thoughts, you see opportunity. Yeah. You see? Yeah. So, and so had I followed my limiting thoughts, I would have had this beautiful experience over the last 6 years of going to the UK and meeting people from all over the world. I wouldn't have had that. So that's what we're talking about. You release some limiting thoughts, Giovanni, and there you are. You see opportunity.
Boom. Opportunities everywhere. It's taking off those blinders, right? Those negative blinders, like the horses back in the day, or I guess they still have them, but you can only see the negative, or even if it's not negative to you in the moment, but if you start accepting more of who you are yourself, the positive, you start seeing more opportunities that can allow you to be your greater self.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Excellent.
That's right, Giovanni.
Well, Mark, I have had a blast speaking with you today.
Me too.
Do you have 3 takeaways we can have for the show, or 2, 3, whatever? 100, if you want to give us 100.
Well, I think it's going back to the very beginning. Again, remember that you are part of something greater than you, and it has an intelligence to it that will actually assist you. It really will. There's a wisdom you've got that will take care of you, and just you want to look to that with believing it, even though you can't see it. You'll never be able to see it. So that's one. And remember that in relationships, whatever they are, even if they look as if they're not going to be fruitful or go further, that you've not lost the energy for having a really good relationship. Take a look at how you're thinking. Take a look at if you are fault-finding, being judgmental, living in opinions, thinking another person should fix it. And try to look to the understanding of separate realities and states of mind. Start to incorporate that. One way to incorporate that is just go about your day and see if you could see states of mind playing out in people. Like, you don't have to look at what are they thinking. Just realize, just try to see that if people are looking generous to you, they're probably in positive states of mind, you know? And if people are looking negative, acting negative in their lives, it's probably because they dropped into fear or insecurity or something. So those are the 3 takeaways.
Okay. Excellent. And I'm actually I'm glad we had this conversation, because I was thinking of relationships going into this, obviously the whole like communication aspect of everything, but really it's not an outward relationships with other people.
Yeah.
But really what it's come down to being is the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
So I find that fascinating and awesome.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much. I know there's going to be people who want to reach out to you and know more about you and what you do. Can you let us know how we can find you?
Okay, so I have a website, and that's www.drmarkhoward.com. So drmarkhoward.com. And you can email me at, again, Dr. Mark Howard, drmarkhoward at comcast.net. Now, as you have podcasts, I have teleseminars.
Oh,
and if people went to my website, they could click on the teleseminar tab, and I have 3 years of monthly teleseminars they could listen to.
Oh, perfect.
So there's that for people. And I have some on relationships there if people wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah.
So that's how people can get a hold of me.
Perfect.
Thank you for letting me share that with people, Giovanni. I appreciate your generosity with that, really.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, this podcast is all about just getting the word out to people, because there's so many different modalities of everything that one doesn't work just for everybody. So getting it out there, the information out there, and just sharing with people is what I love to do. So Dr. Mark, thank you so much for being on. I truly appreciate it. And thank you once again.
Well, thank you, Giovanni. It's been wonderful. Like you said, it has been a great feeling to just be with you.
Thank you. What a great conversation with Dr. Mark Howard. I hope you guys got that at the end, that little twist of relationships, which is it doesn't matter about the other person, how they're communicating with you or how they're acting. It's your understanding of yourself, which can then understand kind of where they're coming from. Very powerful stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy this. If you did and you got some great value out of it, please share with your friends, family, coworkers, loved ones, the man down the street, the woman down the street, whoever may be that needs this. Please let them know about it. And until next time, make it a great day. Thank you once again for listening to All About Your Mindset podcast. You can find us at www.allaboutyourmindset.com.